All right, welcome back, guys, to our second episode, week 3 of the Northern Stars Bachelor Recap. I'm Wes. We've got Haley, Yari, and Patrick is joining us this time after a few technical difficulties the last time. Guys, how are we feeling after week 3 before we get into it?
Oh, man. I'm finally getting a feel for The Bachelor. I'm finally getting a feel for it.
Are you getting hooked? Are you getting hooked on the mind?
Hooked is, I don't know if that's the right word, but
I'm kind of getting hooked, actually. Like, I'm a little guilty to say it, but today I told myself, I'm going to watch about 30 minutes of it and then do some homework and then finish the rest after I'm done. But then the whole thing with Sarah started, and I was like, I could just watch a little bit more. So
Yep.
Yeah. But
yeah, no.
I think I'm getting hooked, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we'll see.
3 weeks in, it's getting you.
Yeah. It's a drama.
Yeah, no kidding. So we are 3 weeks in, and we were talking before we hit record. Haley and I were first girl sent herself home, and typically that doesn't happen until week 6. So we are we are early. Isn't that right, Haley? On this one?
Yeah, she rather quickly found out she couldn't handle it, which, that normally takes a while, I think.
Yeah. It definitely is a little weird, and I think that, I watch it with my girlfriend, and we were talking last night, and she yells at the screen, just like, you signed up for this, and they hear him, it's like, I didn't know what this entailed. It's like, you signed up for a dating show. What did you think was going to happen? So I think that I was a little shocked that we're only 3 weeks into this, and one girl already kind of overdid it.
Especially since I had the first date. So
and I think that partially made it worse. I feel like when someone goes home, the first person to go home other than a rose ceremony is usually a girl from a date. He won't give her a rose. And someone usually does possibly send themselves home, but for the fact that this was her own, accord, and I think she showed a lot about herself and who she was. She couldn't handle him having getting any other attention. And I think this was just not what she thought she signed up for, but it's not season 1 of The Bachelor. She should know.
Right. There's a song and dance to it. Patrick, what was your reaction to seeing at the end Sarah pack her own bags and leave?
If I was in Sarah's shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. I mean, in retrospect, she probably should have. I don't know. I think she could have taken more time to figure out her personal situations a little bit more before getting on the actual show. I wasn't as surprised as I thought I would. I don't know how regular it is for someone to go home on their own, but I mean, we'll unpack everything that happened later, but I don't know. I wasn't too fazed by it, I guess.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's go ahead and dive into it with the start of the episode, to where we got the end of the rose ceremony, to where Sarah was the one who passed or blacked out as we got left with the cliffhanger. She was okay. And so we got through the rose ceremony, and then we were told it was going to be 2 group dates and a one-on-one. And still at that point, the house was very much against Victoria. And I think that kind of changed. The dynamic definitely changed between the start of the show, the start of the episode, and the end of it. But going into it, did you think that this was going to be Victoria's last night? Anybody? Or did we think that she was going to be around for a little bit longer?
She'd stick around. I wasn't expecting her to go home.
Definitely.
And she's always been the last rose.
Right.
What, the second time in a row?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. This was the second time in a row because Marilyn got sent home. I was a little shocked at that one, mostly because I thought that Marilyn she didn't do anything wrong, but clearly there was something that I was surprised, at least, to see both of them not stay.
Well, I think Matt didn't believe her, Marilyn. He thought that, I think like he seemed at the end of last week's episode that he didn't really believe her, and he seems very under Victoria's spell, like whatever it is. So she like kind of weaved this thought into his head, and I think that like, you know, he wasn't able to see past that, and that's super unfortunate because I'm sure when he watches it back, he's gonna be like, "Oh God, like I really messed up."
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think I thought that Victoria was, and we found out like after the rose ceremony when she was like, all right, well, Marilyn's gone. So she literally just was naming, I'm going to pick one off at a time. And then it became after Sarah fainted, Sarah's got to be the one to go. So you could definitely see that dynamic was going to be brewing. But then we got a little bit, I guess, of a relief as we got the group date. Which included Victoria and Kit and a few other girls. First off, guys, what was your initial reactions before we get into what the actual group date was? Just as they walked into that group date. You think it was going to be cringy? You thought it was, didn't know what to expect?
Like, again, this is something, like, they do something weird and uncomfortable every season. So I was just, like, waiting for it at this point, you know? I think it was weird, though, because, like, they said before the date, Matt didn't know what was going on either. So, like, It was a surprise. The date card said, like, this will be a surprise for all of us or something. And, like, it's so, like, to just blindside him like that, I had no idea what to expect, but I knew it was going to be, like, wild, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of speechless. I was very floored, but I didn't know what to expect either. But then after they had mentioned what it was, I remember you saying in the group chat, you were like, oh, it was a little uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, I'm waiting for her to get some sort of cue. And I was like, oh, maybe this is it. And then I was like, oh, this is really it.
Yeah. It was definitely, I watched it live. I don't know if any of you guys had watched it live on Monday night. But the fact that I had no fast forward button for it was very, very uncomfortable just sitting there. I'm like, oh. So obviously they wrote their own. It was based off of Chris Harrison's book that he wrote. And first off, can we just take a second and really think about the fact that Chris Harrison wrote a book that was explicit in context? It was interesting, to say the least. Patrick, you're shaking your head as somebody who doesn't watch reality TV. Did you think that this was just completely awkward, or did you find any of what these ladies wrote about this ultimate love letter at least a little bit amusing?
The idea of it was amusing, yes, but if you're going to do something like that, national television is going to censor the heck out of it. So, I don't know, if you want the shock value, I guess it was sort of there, but it could have been more if it was, I don't know, privately broadcast somehow. But I mean, my first thought when the idea of it was first presented, I was like, oh great, a homework assignment. I have to write something. Like, it's a group date, now I gotta write a story? Come on. I don't know. And I'm like, they had to write down in journals too, so I'm like, okay, no laptop? This is gonna take a lot longer.
I thought it was weird. Definitely, like, and I'll open this question up to the group. If you were a contestant on it and that was a group date, personally, I wouldn't be able to do that. Would anybody be able to be like, oh yeah, I would write that, and I would definitely, like, be able to then not only give it in front of the group, but all the other girls who then showed up?
I think it depends on how you approach it. Because you can go for, like, a comedic take on it. You can go for, like, an actually heartfelt with it. Or you can try to, like, laugh it off and be, like, explicit as you want to be. I don't know. I guess it was up to the interpretation of each contestant about how they want to, like, present it to Matt, I guess. And how they think he would best react and, you know, notice it.
I agree with that. before anything, I was anticipating some sort of wholesome, heartfelt expression of like love from somebody at least, and I
Kit
didn't really
kind
get
of
that.
did that.
She
Kit
did,
kinda,
yeah.
Kit
And
kind of
Matt
got
did
there.
too. Like they were both pretty tame. I feel like they were
Yeah.
both like the most tame with it. But I don't know, like I guess in my like I don't know, like hopeless romantic heart of mine, I was just like, oh, maybe somebody will be like, oh, like a picnic or whatever, like a typical just like. But they just really got really raw and erotic, and so that was. But yeah, I definitely agree that it's something. It's a way that you approach it. I guess I was expecting not that, so.
I was not expecting 50 Shades.
No,
Exactly, yeah.
no high school speech class or college speech class prepared any of them for that.
Oh,
See,
geez.
I think, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, like, I think Katie did a really good job with it, and I probably would have, like, taken it where she did, you know, like, because a lot of, like, and maybe that's just me because I've watched several seasons, and I know that the bold girls who are confident really stand out. So, like, to them anyway, you know, it's always, oh, well, you get the rose because you were really confident today, blah, blah, whatever. So, like, I feel like for me, and I mean, maybe it's just me because I'm, like, a really big extrovert and I don't really care what people think or whatever, that I would just, like, go with it. I mean, you're on national TV. A girl brought a dildo. Katie brought a dildo.
I wrote that
You
down.
know,
I'm like, did
like-
they bring it with?
like, you know, so it's, you know, just I think the nature of being on TV, you gotta be prepared for literally anything.
I think Katie was in her element too, as being
Oh, yeah.
she was a copywriter. Like, and I think she said that at like the beginning. She was like, "This is mine," and it's like, okay. And I think that her and well, she definitely had a more elegant version. Victoria took it from like a 10 at Katie and just hit all the way up to 69, if that's the reference that we want to go with here.
Yeah,
One of them
she got
rhymed.
graphic.
One of them rhymed?
Yeah, I thought that was on point. But they took the extra time to actually make it rhyme.
It was such like an interesting day. First off, for like perks for them, like I'm not an extrovert, so I wouldn't be able to go up there and at least do what Katie and Victoria did. Like that is out of my wheelhouse. But then we got to see, I guess, what do you guys think? Do you think that once they brought in the studio audience, that's when Sarah started to get into her head?
Absolutely. She couldn't stand. I think she is like one of those people that she said, like, she mentioned jealousy issues in the past, and I think that
Sparked
she
it.
like, yeah, she spiraled from there. And I mean, she's not the first girl on any season to get like that, but I think she like couldn't handle that. There was someone else who did that before too, and just like some people can't handle it.
Yeah.
And that was like that. Although too, that went from like just seeing him kiss other women to like hearing what women want to do with him. So like, you know, any rational person, of course, that's going to spark something.
Yeah. I think that it was, I think that that's kind of where we should go here with this. Sarah started to go off the rails as the group date came to an end, and we had our first major, I don't think, it's been a few seasons since I think somebody's interrupted a group date that wasn't on the group date.
But before all that, I finally noticed it. He kisses with his eyes open.
Yeah.
Did anyone else? I saw it twice in a row. I was like, bro.
Yep. He was actually, his Twitter feed last night was hilarious. If anybody who doesn't follow or doesn't have Twitter or doesn't follow him on Twitter, you should take a look at what he tweets on Monday nights. He was watching it with his mother. So yeah, Patrick, that was my reaction when I saw that tweet. Like, you watched that group date with your mother.
Mom, you got the popcorn. This is going to be an interesting one.
It's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm very sorry. But he admitted, he was like, yeah, I guess that's what everybody saw. It's like, yeah, no, you can't unsee it. Like, when you start looking for it, yeah, he does kiss with his eyes open. But going back to it, That was the first time that I remember somebody who wasn't on the group date.
Alea
Interrupt a
did
group.
it in Peter's season, but she interrupted from not even being on the show. Alea went home.
Oh, yeah.
And then
And
she
came
came
back.
back in the middle of a group date.
Just showed up.
So, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Peter sent her home, like, rather early, but it was, like, really hard for him.
Like everything in Peter's season was.
Yeah, and then she showed up again after
To throw
being-
dirt.
Yeah,
To throw
she-
some shade.
Yeah, she showed up to, like, expose somebody because they had been, like, when you're on the show, you don't have your phone. Like, the girls aren't allowed to have their phone.
That sucks.
So she, like, went back to the real world with her phone and, like, found out some dirt about this other girl and came back to, like, tell Peter, and then she ended up staying. So,
Yeah.
so that does happen, but I think that was the first, like, that I remember where she was still there. You know, like, her motive was, like... And I honestly, when she fainted in the beginning of the episode, I'm like, oh, she's just, like, fainting. You know, she doesn't, you know, all the girls hated her. I liked her then. But it was
I
in
did
that
too.
moment.
Same.
Yeah, that was
I
my
was
last
like,
note on
oh.
that page. It was like, well, I don't like Sarah anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that that's kind of where we saw going up until she would have been fine if she wouldn't have interrupted that group date. Everybody still would have hated Victoria. And as soon as she interrupted that group date, I caught myself agreeing with Victoria. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to agree with this girl. But, I think that's when the dynamic kind of changed. Yari, what was your first thought, like, what was your reaction to her kind of
I didn't know where she
interrupting a
was-
date?
I didn't know where she was going. I saw her walking away, and I was like, where is she going? Just because, I don't know. I've never seen it, and it's also in a different location. But I believe, she interrupted Katie, I think it was. And I thought Katie was very mature and very classy throughout the entire episode. I like her a lot now after that. But I didn't exactly know what was going on, and I didn't know what she was trying to achieve, honestly, because it's weird the fact how jealous she was, because I believe it was MJ or Anna maybe who was saying, oh, if I talked to Matt every time I were insecure, I would be talking to him all the time. Like,
Yeah.
It's just a common thing. Like, you would think that she would have prepared herself better for the situation that she put herself in. I was just confused on that, so.
I think she...
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if she was just in a confused state or she thought she was doing the right thing, because at like a basic instinctual level, I think she had the right idea of, you know, the easiest way to get around this issue I'm having is to just talk directly to him as soon as I possibly can. But as soon as I possibly can is what spiraled this whole thing, because when she did it just was not the right time.
I don't think there was a right time for it, especially like there's not a right time for that, but that was the worst time, I feel like, to do it. You weren't on the group date, so there's that. And you already had a one-on-one date. Like, these girls were making valid points. Like, Victoria was making a valid point of, like, none of us have really gotten any time with him. You've already gotten a group date, and now you're coming and doing this. Like, it was not well planned. And I caught myself kind of blaming Matt towards the end of it when he just continued to kind of encourage Sarah. Like, Katie's just sitting there like, okay, 2 minutes, like, keep an eye on clock. Like, I was 100% pushing for Katie on that one. Like, all right, like, let's speed this thing up. But
yeah, I think, well, she acted like she was dating him in, like, real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I think that's where her fault was. Is like, okay, I have an issue, like, there's insecurity, so I'm going to just go, you know, talk to, like, my boyfriend. You know, I can do that. I'm insecure. I call him up later, you know, hey, you were at work. I'm going to talk to you about this thing. She doesn't realize, like, her boyfriend is, like, 13 other, and at this point, I think 20 other women's boyfriend, too. So
yeah, I think we're 20.
I think she doesn't probably, like, understand that shift of, like, he's not only your boyfriend. Like, he's like, everybody is like, and I think that's probably where, because yeah, I get it as a woman, like, oh my God, when I'm, or just anybody, like when I'm really stressed or really insecure, like my significant other is who I want to talk to, you know? That's a natural human like response, but not in this situation. You have to like understand like how to like know your boundaries. And she's like, oh, I'm so worried about what people are going to say like when I come out of this. You should have thought about that before you did it. Like,
yeah. And she was so worried about what other people were going to say when she came down the stairs. She decided not to come down the stairs.
Yeah.
As we, a part of me is kind of envious of that, just being like, nah, I don't feel like doing anything today. I'm just going to chill in a room all day. I mean, Patrick, what did you think that, what was your take on that whole interaction afterwards? Do you think that Matt had any responsibility for it?
You know, he definitely had some responsibility, but I had the thought, it was a thought that there's a chance the producers said don't, you know, like kind of like just like maybe like a let it happen, you know, kind of thing. Because, I mean, he's clearly been very proactive in trying to solve an issue right as it comes up. You know, you've seen that with what was happening with Marilyn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the whole thing was just a wreck. The whole thing with her staying in her room. Honestly, I probably would have stayed in my room too. Because she knows the wolves were waiting for her. And I think she knew she was in the wrong. I'm not saying she wasn't in the wrong, but like, good God.
It went from one cringeworthy thing to the next. I mean, it wasn't just like, all right, let's have this cringy group date, but no, let's have a cringy like after party with it. The only benefit that came out of that after party was Victoria thought she was going to get that group date rose, and she didn't get it. Made me so happy.
I think it's hysterical when Matt comes up with the rose and he sits down on the couch right in the middle of a bunch of people. They have to make room for him.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like the thing. They all, you know, they all sit in the middle of everybody. And what was it? Rachel got the rose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep, it was
Yeah.
Rachel.
And I don't really remember much of what she said.
I was shocked at that. You know,
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be like one of the, like, I was hoping it wasn't going to be Victoria. Like, if it was going to be Victoria, I was like, oh no. Like,
That's a pity rose.
Like, Matt, you need some morals right there, buddy. That's what you need. I thought it was going to be Katie. Like, I thought it was going to be Katie who was going to get that group rose, but I mean, anybody, if it wasn't going to be Katie, I was hoping anybody but Victoria, and so I got my second pick on that. I don't know, that group date kind of set the tone for what the last hour was going to be. You know, were we going to see, you know, Sarah kind of recompose herself and come and face the music, or are we gonna be seeing kind of two girls being up against the rest of the house? Which, I don't know about you guys, I was shocked at how quickly everybody else just kind of joined Victoria on this charge. Instead, like, we were just talking last week about, like, everybody wanted Victoria gone and everybody was against her. And just quick snap of the finger, it's like, nah, we're gonna, like, forgo that, at least for now.
Kind of reminds me of Survivor in a lot of ways. Like, alliances just come and go at the drop of a hat, and there's only one goal to win. I don't know.
Well, I think Victoria says what she feels immediately, so that to me is probably why, because she doesn't hold back. Like, and yeah, that makes her, you know, kind of like the villain of the season, but like that's probably why. It's like, okay, someone's saying exactly what you're thinking, so like you're just gonna be like, yeah, I agree, you know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what, yeah, that's what got me, like, agreeing with her. She was saying the exact same things that I was thinking. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're safe. Like, you don't need to do this. And, you know, I guess it's going to work for Victoria this week, at least not having a filter. But, you know, it was interesting to see that whole house kind of flip from one side to the other within a 30-minute time span or hour time span of that 2-hour episode last night. So what did we have afterwards? It was everybody downstairs except for Sarah again.
Yes, and then Serena's date.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
we got Serena's date card. Yep. So we got Serena's date card to where Matt showed up and Serena's date got delayed.
Bye, Sarah.
Yeah, he threw himself on that bed, and I was like, "Yo, he is tall. Look at those legs."
I think at this point, like, I was, as a guy, like, you should know not to do that. Like, if you have a date, like, you go. Who cares?
And then again, I'm like, okay, I think it's clear that this is a very unusual way of going about dating, if that's what you want to call it. That certain morals like that, it's kind of like the Wild West of what you're supposed to do, I guess. You know,
yeah.
Like if you're a regular guy and you wouldn't do that, and you want to go see someone before you go out with someone, maybe that is the case, but I don't know. I think
if I was Serena, I probably would have slapped him for going up there.
Well, that's how I'd feel as a girl, but at the same time, in that like setting, like I don't like Yari. I mean, how would you have reacted in that situation? Because you kind of can see it probably from where I come from a little bit too, you know.
Yeah, I would have been pissed.
Yeah,
I would have felt very insecure, probably. Yeah, that was very upsetting. But well, I mean, I'm sure it would be upsetting, but yeah, like. No, that was not cool. They got very cozy as well up there.
Then
so.
She was like, well, I get the whole day with him. What's 5 minutes?
That's also true. That's
but it was long. I loved his response. He's like, give me 5 minutes. It's like, that was I loved when he came down and Serena was like, that was a long 5 minutes. It's like, oh, you know that she was not happy about this.
Well, that was probably such an awkward car ride to like whatever date they had to go on. Like,
gosh, I'd like that B-roll. I'd love that B-roll right there. I get how Matt's trying to navigate it, and he's saying, like, you know, I already had a one-on-one with Sarah, and, like, obviously there's something there, so I don't want to, like, disregard it and make her feel any worse. But at the same time, like, you got to imagine, or at least put yourself in those other women's shoes. Like, if I was Serena, like, one, you already know that they had a one-on-one date. You probably heard how it went. Like, you definitely kind of feel probably, like, second place. It's like, okay, like, if he's going to see her, like, every day, I don't know. That's kind of, as a guy, if I was on The Bachelorette, if that was my case, like, yeah, I would definitely feel second place on that.
But then what about all the other contestants that are like, they haven't even had a conversation with him since the first night, you know?
Yeah.
They must be feeling like sixth place. I think that really came through too.
Or final rose material. Last rose of the evening. Yeah, it was. I get that it's difficult, but I think that I was screaming internally. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I did not know how this was going to go, and I think her date, as they got away from the house, it progressed a lot better than it started off with. So I think that it was good that she didn't get, like, what's the word? Probably, like, bad side effects, or, like, side effects from that beginning conversation, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But I thought the date was cute, though. What about? We'll start with you, Yari. What did you think of that one-on-one?
I thought it was very cute. Since I'm, like, new to The Bachelor, I don't really know. It's probably been used before, but I think it's a lot easier because they were, like, talking to each other as they were slowly, like, trotting, I guess you could say. But so they were able to, like, communicate, and then the donkeys, you know, and then that one weird hot tub again. So overall, it was cute. So
I feel like every episode is going to have a hot tub in it. Like if we pulled it, there's going to be a hot tub in every one.
Should we like start a counter? Like how many hot tubs?
Honestly.
I looked at like those like the establishing shots. They got like a full size pool. I'm like, why is everyone sitting on the couch?
That's true.
Because you got to remember that they recorded this in Pennsylvania and it was in the fall.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine it's very warm in Pennsylvania in like October.
The East Coast, yeah, no.
Yeah, but
this isn't California right now.
It was super lighthearted and cute, and I feel like it was very like genuine, like how you banter like with a significant other in a way, you know, like they talked about turtles or whatever, and then when they got to the hot tub, he was wearing like, which the fact that he was wearing turtle boxer or trunks was definitely staged.
Oh
but
yeah,
we're gonna act like it wasn't. And like the little banter, she's like, "Oh, I see you like turtles." Like that was cute, and it was very like real and genuine. I felt it was so like it's so very genuine and compared to the rest of the episode. It was like much needed for sure.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you think?
My only comment, and I wrote this down like 5 times, is that everyone is wearing turtlenecks.
I love the turtleneck.
Matt's wearing a turtleneck every single time, and other people were wearing. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean,
Chris Harrison was not wearing a turtleneck though.
I mean, I don't know. Not a lot of people can rock a turtleneck, but Matt can.
That's true. Yeah, and I think what's her name? Serena was also wearing a turtleneck on her date. Like a cute little jacket over it. I don't know. They have really cute outfits, I'm not even gonna lie. But I'm sure that probably money goes into that as well. But
well, money definitely goes into Matt's. Surprisingly,
sure.
the women have to pay for a lot of their stuff. Any of the contestants. Yeah, so I had like read something before that anybody who's a contestant, like your dresses and stuff, are not comped. Like you have to pay for like your dresses.
I think Victoria should not be. Victoria's dresses, oh my god, they're bad.
Yeah,
Really
I made a comment on that too.
I was like,
kits are probably. If you're talking about kits, Yari, she probably designed them herself. She's a fashion entrepreneur.
That's true.
Makes you wonder
She's probably giving herself brand material.
Makes you wonder if they like trade dresses. Like,
oh my god.
Well, I noticed. Okay, last season or 2 seasons ago, I was paying attention to this. They all recycle earrings. It was a weird thing I noticed. All the women at some point wore the same pair of earrings, and they were like big dangly hoops and stuff. So, because I was like, this is crazy. And I knew, you know, they probably provide a lot of outfits. I don't think they do now because of COVID and everything. So right when I started to notice, like, they were all wearing, like, I saw the same gold, like, hoops, like, 7 times. And I was like, okay, like, every girl has a pair of hoops, like, whatever. But then it was, like, the very noticeable earrings that they, like, all shared. And I was like, that's a bit odd. So I think now they just do their own thing. And
yeah, I was shocked when I like learned that a lot of the dresses that they have to wear for like rose ceremonies, they have to pay for themselves. Now, granted, when you look at some of their Instagram followings and like who they're sponsored by, you can guarantee that they're still not paying for it. But yeah, I mean, Matt's style is definitely done by somebody at ABC
that likes turtlenecks.
A professional.
And I mean, they can afford 30 wedding dresses, so yeah, we'll make you buy your own.
True.
Okay, like if we're gonna talk about Matt's style, Matt could wear like a SpongeBob hoodie and he'd make it look good. Like I'm just saying, like Matt can make anything look good.
That's true. Maybe he just has a cold neck.
Yeah, maybe.
He does.
Maybe.
No.
It is the fall. They're fashionable, so.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't grown the beard out yet, but maybe that's in the contract.
Yeah.
But okay, back on track to it though. So Patrick, your thoughts on the date? Did you think that this one was a little bit more genuine and realistic compared to the first one-on-one?
I was a lot more comfortable with the speed of it. I think it was really great. The horses, the picnic. I think there was some really good conversation. I think they connected a lot. Way better than an airplane ride.
I think it was a lot more. I was watching it and I was like, this makes the bar like settable. Like I can attain this. It's like as a date.
Yeah, it's like why don't they just do that for every date? You know, nothing has to be like super extravagant.
Yeah, like I can do like one of those wine, cheese, and meat like sample things and do it in a meadow, but like I can't do a plane. Like you gotta make this attainable for us who are in a relationship. Like, they like when they brought out, it was a couple seasons ago, like the obscure country artist at the one-on-one date. It's like I can't do that. I can't do that.
Country artist.
But yeah.
Oh yeah. They bring out like artists. They bring out like musicians and
for
stuff.
one-on-one dates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they get concerts from like, oh my god, who was it? Because it was Victoria's date and she had like hooked up with the guy prior.
Yes. So last season, one of the one-on-one dates, the girl was named Victoria. She's kind of crazy, but also like I liked her a little bit more than I like this Victoria.
Seems to be a theme.
They rented out a theme park for her and Peter, and then Chase Rice performed.
Yes, Chase Rice.
The
That's
concert,
who it was.
And Victoria has hooked up with Chase Rice.
Oh my god.
Yes. And Victoria didn't realize. Victoria didn't realize that until afterwards, and then Chase Rice came down to talk to both of them. And Peter was like clueless. He's like, "This is awesome." Victoria's like, "This is awful." Like, I was like I can still remember my reaction to that. I was clapping for those producers. It's like, bravo for digging this dirt up and making this like must-watch TV.
Yeah, but so they do bring out like one-on-one, like artists for one-on-one dates.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they do set the standard very high. You know, every time I go out to dinner, I'm like, "Where's my professional concert? Like, what the heck?"
Right. They make it unattainable for men. They make it extremely.
I mean, I'd be great if I had an orchestra following me around.
It's like, oh man, but I mean, I thought this one-on-one date was definitely it was nice. It was something that is relatable for normal viewers, and then we kind of cut back to the drama that was consuming the house. So I kind of, and forewarning for anybody who's listening to this, I was splitting my migraine last night, so I'm like in and out on this point. So if you guys want to take the lead on this portion of it, be more than happy to right now. So after the date, Haley, what else went down at this point?
So yeah, after the date, we started, I mean, it honestly, from the end of the date, it was just back and forth between the group of girls complaining about Sarah to Sarah. Like, that is essentially literally what happened. They went to go, you know, they flashed back on the girls, and Sarah had yet to come out of her room for day like 2 or 3 at this point. And then there's like a knock on the door for the group date card, but they never read it. And so...
Oh yeah, because Sarah came down.
Yes, so Sarah came down to listen to the group date card, and then that's when like it just everything hit the fan. Like, it was like ultimate, like, you know, just
I was under the impression she came down to apologize.
I thought I mean, maybe, but because she apologized like that night with Victoria, and then talked to Victoria, but I think she came because if you notice, she sat next to like Bree or somebody.
Yeah,
to
right.
Like listen to Rachel. Yeah, to listen to Rachel announce the group date.
Yep.
And then like
I thought she apologized right after that.
She did. I do remember that she had said something, and then I also remember Victoria saying like, "I don't accept your apology," and I was like, "Here we go."
Well, I think she was gonna apologize, but someone called her out and was like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You just like strolled in."
Yeah.
Then that's when, you know, like, I mean, I've seen many a Bachelor, like, showdowns, but, like, what did you guys think?
I thought this was one of the bigger breakdowns that we've seen on the show from a contestant in a while.
Yeah, a lot of crying.
Yeah. Patrick, Yari?
I thought, well, I think like with it, I thought it was weird because in that, I guess in that like altercation, she was already trying to say, oh, well, I didn't mean to. And I think that she was just trying to let herself off the hook, even though she was still apologizing. It was strange. Like I felt like it was more of she thought of it as like a two bird, one stone scenario where like, oh, I can see if I'm in the group date, but I could also maybe apologize if like anything were to happen, which it did. And, but I don't know. It was very fast for the girls to turn on her because they were like, "Oh, your time's here going to be here is going to be terrible or whatever."
Yeah, I remember Kit saying that.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, it got."
The thing is, she didn't say
yeah,
it to her
this shit's
face.
real
She said
fast.
it after the fact.
I think I heard one of them say to her face that like she was going to have like a terrible time in the house.
Yeah,
And
someone said that to her.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, and so that's why I'm hesitant to think like if maybe they actually did bully her out because I mean. She had to have known that she was going to have a terrible time. Like nobody was on her side except for maybe Katie at the point where she was leading. But yeah, they did get very upset with her, which I understand. You know, it's The Bachelor. You only get so much time with Matt. You only get so much time with The Bachelor. But I just thought it was really crazy how fast they turned on her.
Yeah, it took a week. I think
and
that was kind of a shock.
It was so situational too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I think it was doomed from the start. I'd say. You know, no one that was sitting on that couch had any goal of trying to make up with Sarah, or like try to mend things or give her a chance. And I think I don't know what Sarah had in mind when she sat down and apologized. I think she might have been just trying to make the best of a situation or save her own skin. But the fact is she still apologized, and I felt it was genuine. I felt she was trying to make the best of a terrible situation she put herself in, but I don't think anyone would have tried to understand it or listen to her, and they just went at her about what she did wrong. And I mean, she needed to be told what she did wrong, but there was no resolve. There was no going forward from it.
No, I think that they were all kind of like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I kind of see it. I see it from both ways. As like somebody, like if I were to do, not saying that I ever would, but if I were to do what Sarah did, like, yeah, I would be apologizing to those guys. Like, you know, it's kind of that struggle of like, okay, like, I want to make sure that I'm okay, but at the same time, like, there are other people that you're living with. Like, these aren't just like your roommates; these are also Matt's other quote unquote girlfriends. So it was a lose-lose situation from the moment she decided to leave her room and go interrupt that group date.
And then they make fun of her for staying in her room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was doomed from the start. And you know, now that I think about it, Victoria did get her way again. She's 2 for 2 on kicking people off that she doesn't want. So, I don't know how I feel on that either. Like, I don't want to throw it back to Victoria again, but she, again, 2 weeks in a row, she gets to picking them off one by one.
Maybe she's just perceptive, like, and she can, I mean, it's one of those things, you know, takes one to know one. She seems to be manipulative. Maybe she knows, you know, she could sense that, like, Sarah was, and, like, I go back and forth with it because, like, okay, Sarah seems super genuine, like, when she was talking about her father and, like, you know, I hope that he's okay, you know, and, like, I wish all the best for her, and, like, at the end when she was like crying in the car saying like, Matt saw my heart, he knew who I was, and that's why he let me go. Like, I felt that genuineness from her, but also everything the girls were saying about her trying to manipulate the situation also like was like, yeah, that's what she did. So I like go back and forth about her. I really don't know.
Yeah, I watched her one-on-one and I was like, this is one of the girls that I really like. And not even one episode later, like, I was like, she needs to go. And it's not because I didn't think that she was genuine, but I was like, this is not, like, there was a genuine side to her that she definitely showed with Matt, but then it also seemed like she was playing chess at the exact same time with, like, how to get more time. And I don't know if it was her idea, like, I can send other girls home. Like, maybe, like, this show will be over. Like, maybe it'll be Claire 2.0, which it's not going to be, hopefully. But, you know, that was kind of my thought on it, was, you know, she kind of overplayed her hand on it. But, Yari, you got any final thoughts on that?
Not on that anymore.
Patrick, how about you? And I think then we're caught up, I think, before we...
I don't know. If that is how a lot of this drama on the show is going to go, I mean, I guess I can deal with it. I mean...
I'm kind of more excited for when we get down to, like, 12 girls. Once we get down to 12 to 10, like, I'll start to get a little bit more entertained. Yeah. Like, the pettiness definitely starts at the beginning of the show, and then it gets into more women bawling with emotional heartbreak towards 10 girls left.
I really did like...
Yeah, the crying is just the beginning.
Yeah. I really did like how Katie came and talked to Sarah. I think that was a good show of character about how I think she recognized that she did apologize, and a lot of the stuff the whole situation rooted for when Sarah interrupted her. And I think it was a little more of a resolve than she would have gotten with any of the other girls.
That's true. It was also really cool for her to kind of defend Sarah when Katie was addressing the situation with the rest of the girls. She was saying to not judge her too hard because you don't know everyone's situation, and the fact that Sarah was struggling with her family. So I thought that was really cool, and it was very sweet and heartfelt, and they had a very nice moment that was bonded by, you know, their suffering, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's a genuine thing there, you know, especially because it's like you do have to live with them, and I think that was more along the line. She wasn't doing it just for the camera. Like, there are some of them that you can definitely tell that they're night and day when certain people are around, and she kind of showed that she was like, you know, this is just who I am. So, I mean, I like Katie, and so I think that, you know, again, it kind of solidified that a little bit more.
I like her too. Katie's a real one.
I'm still hoping it's Abigail, though. Like,
yeah.
Abigail's my
I was surprised to hear
favorite.
her when she jumped in the group conversation.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
She's got a little clap back. She's got a little bit. I mean, granted, Kit definitely, like, in that conversation, she definitely has, like, that 21-year-old entitlement to her, which I'm all for it. Like, you know that
Kit seems like
eventually
kind of like the underdog, almost.
I would put it that way. I think that she's seen as the child right now, but don't be sleeping on it yet. Don't be sleeping on her yet. But, and then, what was the last? So did we get a rose ceremony last night?
No. It ended with Sarah saying goodbye to Matt.
Yep. Okay.
That was the last thing that we saw was her, like, and he, like, actively tried to convince her to stay, and she was just like, you know, I can't, and, like...
I think it's a kudo for her for at least admitting that she couldn't stay.
But, like, imagine if she did stay. I
wish...
I just told everyone I'm going to go, but...
convince her to stay.
If he would have convinced her to stay, I don't think it would have been as bad for her. I think it would have been bad for Matt. Because how many of those girls would have flipped on him?
Yeah.
I mean, everything would have broke loose. I think she would have, like...
She would have, alienated herself and just waited for Matt to show up.
That would have been, like, honestly, probably, like a Claire and Dale situation all over again, kind of. where everyone turns on them.
Yeah.
Which, like, would not have been good.
Yeah, two times in a row. Oh, boy.
Right?
I guess I kind of see it both ways. Like, I feel like if I was Sarah and he convinced me to stay, like, I would feel fine. I'd be looking at those other women like, well, I mean, I threatened to leave and he told me to stay, so clearly, like, I'm okay. But I think the other girls would see it kind of both. I get where you're saying, like, they would definitely be turning on Sarah, and they probably would be, like, Matt would have an explanation, like, have to give an explanation at that point. But in the end, she decided to pack her own bags and leave. Again, the one, I would never go on this show, but the one thing that I would want to, if I was ever given the opportunity, I just want to be the luggage guy. That's what I would want. Like, again, like, it's already done because Barstool Sports actually got one of their guys who just sworn up and down for like 5 years. It's like, I just want to be the guy who grabs the luggage and then leaves with it. Like, I 100% would just want to roll like that. Just 5 seconds of fame. Like, let me go ahead and do that.
Or the driver who has to drive.
Yeah, she's like sobbing in the back seat, and he's like, "Where are we going?"
It's like, are we going to the airport? Like, oh, I mean, we got that, and then we got the notice that we're actually gaining a few more to the roster, which
that makes no sense.
I don't know how to feel.
That makes the ones.
I don't know.
People already on the show can't
about
handle
this.
each other. Let's throw more into the mix.
Let's throw 5. Let's throw 5 more. Like,
I don't know.
I'm curious to see who it's going to be. I think that'll be interesting to see who it's going to be.
Have they brought?
Because I know
Have they brought people back from like past seasons? Is this one of those kind of things, or like just new people?
No, that's Bachelor in Paradise more, isn't it?
it is more Bachelor in Paradise to where we get former cast members. Hannah Brown made an appearance last season.
Oh God, yeah.
With Peter, Peter was on Hannah Brown's season of The Bachelorette. And this was after, like, everything. But no, she didn't stay. So I don't think that we've had, like...
She should have.
She should have. I mean, I'm a big Hannah Brown fan.
Me too.
I'm a big Hannah Brown fan, so I would have loved to have seen that. Especially, like, I just love it for the chaos. And for
yes.
For Yari and Patrick, Peter and Hannah Brown have a very romantic connection. They had sex 3 times in a windmill.
Oh, was it 3 or 4? Was it 3 times and then once in the morning? Because I think.
Yeah, I think it was something like whatever it was. It was multiple times.
Spin those turbines.
Yeah, and they brought that up. They brought it up so many times.
Yeah. So, as somebody who would hope that would be the case, like, I was hoping that she was going to stay just because of the fact, like, those women would get in their heads, like, I am so screwed. Like, I can't compete with this.
Well,
like,
what are these women going to do? How can you compete with women who've known him for 3 weeks already? Why would you want to do that?
Right. And I think it's a little bit different. Like, if, again, we don't know who these 5 girls or these 5 women are going to be. So, and there's a part of me that's like, it doesn't make sense to bring back previous contestants because he is a rookie to it. Like, he has no history with anybody in Bachelor Nation. So, like, are you just going to bring back, like, some of, like, the fan favorites? But I don't know. I'm curious to see who it's going to be. And, like, there's a part of me that thinks the producers have it up their sleeves that these are people that Matt knows somehow.
Oh, no.
There's a part of me that thinks that.
It's his 5th grade teacher. I
don't know. That's kind of my thinking on it is, you know, because it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we bringing in more when typically this is, I think it's like an 8 or a 10-week show. I mean, it's typically done by, like, mid-March. It's done, like, right after the Final Four. So, I mean, like, I just don't know. Like, a part of me is like, why are we going this way? But again, this is a completely different season due to COVID. Like, I don't know how how they're working this show. And I haven't read Reality Steve or anything else like that, so I don't know how it's ending. You know, there are people who do that, and I used to be one of them, unfortunately. But
yeah, I used to. I mean, yeah, it'll get the best of me eventually.
yeah, it eventually will. But you know, I'm curious to see why they're bringing 5 more people in, unless there are going to be more who are leaving. Because I think we're still down to, like, they're sending 2 or 3 home right now. So I think that you know, the numbers might balance out a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know what to think at this point on how this is going to go. I also want to know who's going to be on the next. Are we just going to skip the last group date? Or are we going to get this group date? Are we going to get this group date?
Yeah, hopefully. for their sake, I want to know, you know.
I want to know if it's cringy again. I think I can't do another one of those if they do that. Like, oh.
Every episode up to this point has been so different. Is that like a usual thing, or is there kind of like does it get into a flow eventually?
It will, yeah. When they're down to like 4 or 5, they kind of all the dates. I mean, normally like day 4 or 5, like week towards the end, they go like to a random getaway destination once a week.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
And then they explore the town, have dinner somewhere, and go swimming. Or like are on a boat or something. There's water involved.
Yeah.
So I don't remember.
Sounds like every family's vacation to Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually they do that, but I don't know how they're going to do it now.
Yeah,
I don't remember how they did last season.
Yeah, it's definitely... And again, we haven't seen a Bachelor due to COVID restrictions yet.
Right.
They're definitely like... in terms of budget, the Bachelor has a larger budget every year than the Bachelorette. But yeah, typically around the first like 3 or 4 weeks, they're at the mansion in California, typically. And then from there, like who's ever left, it's like Chris Harrison comes in. It's like, ladies, pack your bags. Like we're going here. And usually it's like 2 or 3 destinations that are inside the United States. Once they whittle it down, then they go international. And then it's usually like the final 6, we get hometowns. So once they're down to 6, we'll get hometown dates, which Matt will then visit all of the girls' hometowns, and Matt will meet their parents. And then final 4 will be fantasy suites, and typically Matt brings them home.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, so once you get under like 10, it typically gets pretty formulaic about like, okay, like we're going to see this at this point. Once you get to 6, it's women tell all. Yes. And then after the final rose is after fantasy suites, but before the final 2.
What does women tell all mean?
It's a typically it's a live studio audience, so they bring back all the contestants from the year. From this season? And Chris Harrison basically plays moderator. Yes, from this season. Chris Harrison basically plays moderator and relives all of the drama. And, like, you know, there's another live studio, which is after the final rose, which is then they bring out to see, like, if Matt is still with whoever. Final reaction between, like, the other 2 who came first runner-up and second runner-up. And then they also announced the next Bachelorette. So Women Tell All is very catty. It can get very fun.
Great.
It's so good. I'm so ready, so excited. It's going to be so juicy. Like, literally, if this season is we're week 3 and we've had so much drama, it's going to be so intense.
Yeah, it gets good. And there's, like, no filter, because Chris Harrison does not stop them from interrupting one another. He's just like, okay, like, let's roll a grenade in here. It's like, let's roll the grenade, and then we'll go from there. You know, I think that we're getting... I'm very much surprised at how different this has been so far, but it's still entertaining nonetheless. You you'll kind of, once you get into fantasy suites and stuff like that, that's when everybody kind of gets interested. And it kind of depends on the Bachelor. We had a virgin Bachelor for a while, and so again, sex drives ratings, Patrick.
Clearly.
sex drives ratings on the show. But, I think that, I don't know what we're going to see, but I'm curious to see who's going to walk out of the limo or SUV that they're bringing in next week on Monday night.
I'm ready for it.
Yari, you got any final thoughts?
I'm also intrigued to see how it'll go, just because there's already a lot of women. It's supposedly a record-breaking season, so to add on more, and not only that, but last episode was delayed, and this one we also didn't get the second group date. So I don't know how that's going to work if you say that it's only like 8 episodes or 8 weeks or whatever. Like if everything keeps getting delayed, I don't know how it'll work. I don't know if there's time, but seems exciting, so I'm in for it. We'll see.
Patrick, final thoughts?
Oh, man. One of my first thoughts when I started this episode is that they need to wash the glass on the revolving door. But other than the turtlenecks, I think the donkey was my favorite part.
The donkey stole the show for you.
Did you see those photographs? Oh, man.
Those are so cute.
Actual model.
Yes,
America's Next Top Model.
I loved Serena's reaction. Like, Serena was just like, "You're killing my vibe." It's like, well, yeah. The donkey was third. The donkey was third wheeling, like, hardcore.
I mean, third
Here's
wheel,
my
you get a
question.
choice of
Did
a
they
pilot or a donkey.
Did they just release these donkeys onto them? Like, where did they come from?
Yeah, I don't think Pennsylvania has free roam donkeys. Like, I don't think that that's the case.
No, they were lugging all the picnic stuff and the camera equipment.
Oh, jeez. The free labor, man. Gotta make sure that everybody's staying healthy during COVID.
Wow. But yeah, I'm excited to see who the new 5 people are. It'll be just as drama-filled as the last few episodes, but we're all in at this point.
Yeah, I also, not something that was, and you guys probably skipped through it, but they had commercials out there, and it was some of the old Bachelor cast, and it was a throwback to one of my favorite seasons. The fact that Jordan Rogers and JoJo Fletcher have a Heineken commercial on there, I was so happy to see that.
Well, yes, so on Hulu, you don't get those commercials. I get commercials, but they're not those. And it's such a shame, because I love those.
Yeah, the commercials are very targeted to the target audience, I guess. I made a few notes about that.
The amount of people who were involved in Bachelor Nation that were like a part of it at one point and still are is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you could be on there for like one episode and you have a brand at that point. Like, you have a secured brand. So I was happy to see that. But yeah, I think 5 new women next week, see it. Hopefully we get this group date and maybe 2 rose ceremonies if we're lucky next week. But I don't know. I'm curious to see how it's going to go. All right. So I think we've touched on everything. It was kind of a three ring. Yeah, it is a 3-ring circus this time. So next week, another 2 hours, 7 o'clock on Monday, and we will be back again next Tuesday to break it all down and have it out for you guys in the middle of the week. Guys, as always, it's fun as usual, and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.